Sammy, they got Michelle in front of that committee, so maybe it worked.
That is what we have achieved.
No, it didn't work, Stephen, and I think anybody who watched any of the committee knows fine well that it didn't work. Just to be very clear, Timothy Gasson sits on that committee. Timothy Gasson did not submit any questions in advance, and he made very clear to the chair, to all of the members of that committee, and to the clerk that submitting the questions in advance would be seen as undermining the scrutiny role of the committee. And I'm disappointed that other members did not follow that sensible advice. However, there are key questions here, and they don't particularly relate to some of those issues. Some of the key questions are really related to the chair, because we had the ridiculous situation where the First Minister, who was a witness before the committee, hosted a meeting with the chair of the committee. The only record of that meeting is held in minutes taken by the witness. There is no committee.
Well, they weren't taken by the witness. They were taken by a civil servant, weren't they?
They were taken by a civil servant working to the witness, Stephen, working to the First Minister. It was not taken by anybody working for the committee. It's like the police taking a witness in and saying, well, you make your own notes of this meeting. I'm sure that will be a sufficient record of this. I mean, we have the farcical situation now where you've alliance people saying, well, we don't need to worry about there not being a committee minute of this because the First Minister's people took a minute of it. Why is there no committee minute of it? And more fundamentally than that, when did the chair of the committee know that the First Minister wanted to have a private meeting?
Well, look, stay there. We'll talk about this for another DUP. Staying with us this morning, we're grateful for his time, along with Sammy Morrison, TUV party officer. Good morning again, Sammy.
He wishes he was Sammy Wilson.
Brian. So what questions remain then around this? We are getting some people saying to us, look, when's this going to end? When are we going to go back to normal business?
I think, Stephen, the first questions that need to be raised before we even get to the questions that Michelle O'Neill needs to answer are the questions which the chair of this committee and to an extent the clerk of the committee need to answer. For example, at the start of the committee meeting on Wednesday, Timothy Gasson raised the point, and he was the only member to raise this point, that the email which had been forwarded to the members of the committee had the date and the timestamp removed from it. That was the email that came out from Michelle O'Neill requesting the meeting with the chair of the committee.
Well, that'll be disclosable under FOI if they don't.
Well, yes, you'd imagine so, and it'll be interesting to see whether it is. But here's the point about that, Stephen: is it the case that the chair or the clerk of the committee received an email from the First Minister, and did that come from the Executive Office? And if it came from the Executive Office, was it signed off by the First Minister? Because nothing should happen in that office unless it, signed off by the Deputy First Minister. Because nothing should happen in that office unless it's signed off by the Deputy First Minister. And when did that email go to the chair of the committee and to the clerk of the committee? And here's the point. Here's the point about that, Stephen. It's important because the membership of the committee were advised at 9:50 that the chair of the committee was meeting with the First Minister at 10 o'clock. Did the chair or the clerk of the committee hold that information back from committee members so that there was a minimum amount of time for them to object? Now, Timothy Gasson objected to that taking place.
Well, the clerk of that committee isn't here to answer for themselves. Paula has given an interview, but you need to be very respectful here to the clerk, where we cannot be making presumptions.
Well,
based on you just making it up in your head.
Here's we're not just making presumptions on it. We can say, because we know that the date and the timestamp on the email sent by the First Minister which ended up with the chair of the committee have been removed.
Well, surely there is an easy way around this, Brian Kingston. Emma Little-Pengelly is the Deputy First Minister. This letter was sent from her joint office. She can ask to see the email, she can ask to see the date, and the DUP can make it public, right? Well, Emma Little-Pengelly can make it public.
Well, she can certainly ask that question. I'm not sure who the email was sent by.
Well, hold on a minute. If a message is being sent from within the Executive Office to the Committee for the Executive, then how on earth can Emma Little Pengelly, the Deputy First Minister, how would she not be entitled to see an email sent from her office?
Yes, but I know Emma did put out a tweet, or whatever you call it now, an X, that whatever email had been sent out by Michelle or on her behalf was not a joint email, that Michelle attended this meeting on her own and made the arrangements on her own. She also arranged the meeting with the committee chair on her own.
But that doesn't add up. Here's why that doesn't add... Hold on, Sammy. Here's, Brian, why that doesn't add up. Michelle O'Neill sat in that committee meeting and her fundamental point was, unless it was a question about executive office business, she wasn't answering it.
Well, so that was absolutely our frustration. And that's why I made the point that we had submitted some sample questions in advance, so she would be under no illusions about what would be raised. You know.
So I think the First Minister, the Deputy First Minister, needs to make it clear: did she see this email? Was it issued officially through her departmental channels? And when was it issued? Because the chair of the committee only deemed fit to forward that to committee members 10 minutes before the meeting started. So did the chair of the committee sit on that email potentially from, 7 o'clock the night before?
Sammy, I've literally just had a 35-minute interview with the health minister talking about people in communities with deprivation, not having good health, 14 years shorter than people with money. We're talking about people sitting in A&Es for 16 hours. We're talking about excruciating waiting lists. Should you move on from all of this?
No, we shouldn't move on.
And why not? Why not get back into solving critical issues for this community? Here's
why we shouldn't move on, Stephen, from this issue, because this is a critical issue relating to a particular issue that actually touches upon Mr. Nesbitt's department, which is child safeguarding. For example, we had a situation where Michael McMonigal, a self-confessed paedophile, had an active assembly pass and had access to assembly buildings while you had school children visiting there and other school groups, and that pass was active up until 3 weeks ago. That was never cancelled. That is an issue which particularly touches upon the issues under which Mr. Nesbitt has departmental remit. So it's fundamental. And if a committee gets to the point where we are going to have pre-meetings between committee witnesses and the chair of committees, and we have a situation where questions to witnesses are submitted in advance of the meeting, then no one can have confidence in Stormont's ability to oversee health or the roads or anything, because a scrutiny committee which cannot scrutinise and has a committee chair who is prepared to fundamentally undermine her authority as an independent person by attending a meeting at which the only minute taker is a minute taker under the direction of the witness, and the only advises the committee members of that 10 minutes before the meeting takes place, so has no authority or clearance from the committee to be there, then that calls into question Stormont's ability to do anything. It is fundamentally, Stephen, dysfunctional. And
you're the policy officer for the TUV. Is there any policy suggestions from your party as to what will help working class people live longer?
One of the key issues that Stormont has failed to deliver on is getting Northern Ireland a fair share of the funding, Stephen, in relation to health. We had, a number of years ago, the Welsh Government commissioned a report by Professor Hockham. Professor Hockham was able to build the case and to demonstrate that Wales needed to be funded to its level of need and that the Barnett formula was outdated. He was able to present that case. The Welsh Government made that case to the Westminster Government a number of years ago and successfully made it. And as a result of that, Wales has got an uplift in their funding allocation from Westminster, which has helped towards the waiting list and helped towards the health situation there. Northern Ireland hasn't made that case. And even though We had situations where the major parties were all in negotiations with the government and they were talking about this financial package and that financial package. What they were getting, at best, was a lump sum of money rather than looking at what the Welsh Government had done, making the case with the paperwork that was already there, produced by Professor Hockham, and saying, look, the funding formula for Northern Ireland is out of date.
Well, they have made that case, of course, and the point is they were in there making that case. You were sitting outside.
No, they weren't making that case.
They were.
No, they weren't. Let me interrupt. Let me make clear what I'm saying there, Stephen. What I'm saying is they shouldn't have been making the case to say, give us a big block of money. What they should have been making the case was to make a sustainable argument for a long-term, better funding settlement for Northern Ireland. And my point to you, Stephen, is that paperwork's already done and it's sitting on the shelf because Professor Hockham has done that research.
Sammy, thank you very much.